Welcome once again to Kahului Hongwanji Buddhist Temple's online YouTube service. Today's service is for Sunday, May 23rd, 2021, and today we are observing Gotan-e, which is the birthday of Shinran Shonin, who is called the founder of our Buddhist tradition, Jodo Shinshu, or the True Pure Land School of Buddhism. We will also have our family gratitude remembrance today as well. So today's service is what we call a major service, one of the 6 services that we have that are considered especially important, and because we are kind of easing up a little bit with the COVID restrictions, we are also going to be having our service on, in the temple, an in-person service. So this video is being recorded separately, but ahead of time, but it is for the same day, for May 23rd. And when you're watching this, there'll also be a service going on in the temple. So it all gets kind of complicated, but not so much. We're kind of working through all these things. And now that we have the YouTube services every week, even though we go back to being in the temple, people who are far away and can't come to temple enjoy having the online service. So we'll probably have to keep those going for at least for a long time. So today's service will begin with our Vandana and Tisarana. We've already had the opening bell, the Kansho, calling us all toward a kind of awareness or appreciation, mindfulness, to listen to the Dharma and to reflect on ourselves. After the Vandana Tisarana, I will make an aspiration for Gotan-e and for the family gratitude. And then after that, we will chant the sutra, 12 homages, which is the English version of the sutra called Junirai. After this, we will recite the Golden Chain of Love, and then I will share a Dharma message with you. And after that, we will have our chanting of the metta, the loving kindness meditation, followed by the singing of the Nembutsu and some closing words, and also have some announcements for you at the end as well. Okay, so thank you very much again for being here, and let's put our hands together in Gasho and recite the Nembutsu as we begin our service. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Today, Kahului Hongwanji Sangha has gathered together for this Gotan-e service in the spirit of harmony and appreciation to celebrate the birth of our spiritual founder, Shinran Shonin. May our minds and hearts be always guided by the wonderful teaching of compassion and humble self-awareness that he shared with us. May we all dedicate ourselves to follow the Buddhist path of awakening throughout our lives. Today we also remember our loved ones who have passed away, particularly those whose memorials are observed in this month. In appreciation of them, let us reflect on the transience, the uncertainty, and the impermanence of our existence, so that we may all awaken to realize the true significance of living. Let us live our lives in gratitude for the great kindness we have received and seek to repay our debt of gratitude to all of our loved ones and friends for the countless gifts we have received. In deepest gratitude, let us repeat the name, which is true reality itself, boundless light, limitless life. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Gods and men all bow in awe to Amida the revered, in Buddha's wondrous pure land. Bodhisattvas gather round, golden form like the mountain king, steadfast like the elephant's pace, Buddha's eyes like the blue lotus. Thus I bow to Amida, Buddha's form round like the moon, bright like thousand suns and moons, Buddha's voice like the nightingale. Thus I bow to Amida, Buddha's figure on Kanon's crown, adorned with wondrous features. Buddha subdues evilness. Thus I bow to Amida, beyond compare Amida's pure, virtue shining clear like space, all benefit from Buddha. Thus I bow to Amida, Bodhisattvas all renown, Maras to praise Amida, primal vow made for our sake. Thus I bow to Amida, golden ponds where lotus bloom, towers a throne of goodness. Buddha lives like the mountain king. Thus I bow to Amida, Bodhisattvas come afar, attaining true happiness. They revere the Buddha's face. Thus I bow to Amida. All life changes like the dew. We have no permanent self. Buddha teaches this law to all. Thus I bow to Amida. No evil in the Pure Land, and no fear of evil paths. Faithful hearts honor Buddha. Thus I bow to Amida, saving us through many ways. No tempters, no evil friends. Birth leads to enlightenment. Thus I bow to Amida. Amida, thus I have praised virtues boundless like the sea. These virtues shared with others for birth into the Pure Land. Namandabu, 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 Namandabu. The virtue of Amida's vow is shared equally by all, together attaining awakened mind. We are born in the land of peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, 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 Namanda. Golden Chain of Love. I am a link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love become bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Welcome once again. I'd like to share with you now some thoughts about the Buddhist teaching, especially on this occasion of Shinran's birthday. So last month, Buddhist temples here in Hawaii celebrated or observed Hana Matsuri, which is the Buddha's birthday. So this month our temple and the other Hongwanji temples are observing Gotan-e, which is the birthday of Shinran. Shinran, often called Shinran Shonin, means kind of master, who is the founder of the Jodo Shinshu tradition. And even though the Buddha gave his teaching of enlightenment thousands of years ago, Shinran was a person who helped many people to understand the importance of the Buddha's teaching and to be able to live it fully in everyday life. Shinran was born in 1117 during a period of war and great suffering in Japan. It was a time of civil war and kind of the breakdown of society. And as is so often the case when harsh conditions force people to confront the truth of impermanence, because they see a lot of death, disease, death, killing, and so on. Many people during that time began to seek meaning in the teachings and practices of Buddhism. Ordinary people, not just the monks. There were always the monks, of course, and had become kind of an aristocratic thing in the Japan of those days. Buddhism was not really for everyday people, but during this time, ordinary people, sometimes we say lay people, but just everybody, ordinary people, wanted to have some answers to the problems of life, and so they began to seek seek knowledge about Buddhism. So Shinran, when his family was apparently some kind of upper class family, some branch of the aristocracy of those days, but they fell onto hard times, financial hard times. They became poor. And so at the age of 9, he became ordained as a monk at a temple called Shoren-in in Kyoto. It's still there. I don't think it's the same buildings, but it still exists, and they have a statue of the Shinran as a child at that temple. Anyway, legends of the tradition about Shinran tell us that he became ordained as a monk because his encounter with impermanence. Apparently, we're told, the legend has it that his family all died, and so he encountered impermanence, and so he was impelled by a deep desire to seek to understand the truth about Buddhism, about the meaning of life, and just as similarly as Shakyamuni Buddha was impelled to seek understanding when he discovered things about the reality of life. We're told that Shinran urgently wanted to be ordained as soon as possible so he could get started on this path right away. The truth of this legend is uncertain, probably not true. He was a 9-year-old boy, and that's certain. We know that. And we know that his family had become poor. We also know now from historical records that his father and brothers also ordained as monks, so they hadn't all died. And that was a common practice in those days when members of the upper classes fell onto hard times, you see, and lost their means of support. Going into the temple, becoming monks and nuns was really the only option they had. We don't know, Shinran's mother, we don't know for sure. She may have become a monk or she may have died, we don't know. People died of so many reasons back then, so many causes, the upper class people had no skills except literary skills, so they couldn't support themselves other than going into the monastery. So this legendary story, of Shinran, these stories about Shinran, they understandably idealize him and idealize his childhood. But I think that we may appreciate him more and understand him quite a lot better if we don't see him in an ideal way, if we don't see him as some kind of a saint, even when he was a child, but as a person who, like us, had to do the best he could. An ordinary person who had to do the best he could in circumstances that he couldn't control. That's real life, And one thing we know for sure, once he became a monk, he took this very seriously and was extremely conscientious and dedicated. And during the 20 years that followed, he strove tirelessly to perfect himself, devoting himself to trying to attain enlightenment, which was the goal of Buddhism, to become enlightened, perfection, But no matter how hard he could try, Shinran couldn't overcome the reality of himself. He was an ordinary person, beleaguered by all the attachments and limitations that make it impossible for any of us to be perfectly good. We can be good once in a while to a certain degree, right? But we're not able to be perfectly good, entirely good. There's always a mix going on there, a lot of self-centeredness, a hidden agenda, all that kind of stuff. Shinran felt very weighed down, however, by the heavy burden of his attachments, or blind passions, as he liked to call them. And Buddha had taught that those attachments, or blind passions, are the cause of all the sufferings that afflict human beings. Shinran felt that enlightenment was impossible for him as a result of that, and according to the beliefs of his time, he was convinced that therefore he was bound for hell in the next life. Because if you're not perfect, if you don't perfect yourself, then next life you're going to go to hell or to some lower life form or something like that, which is what they believed. They took it very seriously. So this brought him almost to despair. So after 20 years of living as a monk, out of desperation, he sought an answer to his dilemma by entering into a 100-day retreat at the Rokakudo temple in Kyoto. And this was a temple where people could go who were seeking answers to deep problems in their life, and be there and stay there for a long period of time. And it was a kind of a sacred place. And there's a lot of example of those kinds of places in the ancient world. It was something that people could go and spend time in this otherworldly kind of environment, and fasting, or things like that. And then they would have visions, and then they would get answers from those visions. So during his retreat, he experienced a spiritual vision of some kind. And according to a letter written years later by his wife, Heshini, Shinran, after he had this vision, and we're told from other sources that it was a vision of the Bodhisattva Kanon, the Bodhisattva of compassion, in the form of Prince Shotoku, who was, in a sense, the person who dedicated Japan to Buddhism, or kind of made Buddhism the central teaching in Japan. And so he was highly revered. But anyway, Shinran had this vision, whatever it was, and he immediately left the temple and sought out a monk named Honen. He's also called Honen Shonin, Master Honen. And Honen had left the institutional temples earlier to practice and teach a simple form of Pure Land Buddhism that he had come to understand was available to all beings equally, and through which everyone, regardless of who they were, condition of life, whatever, could be saved from suffering by the compassionate power of Amida Buddha, and eventually attain Buddhahood. So from Honen, Shinran learned that there was no difference in the Buddha's eyes between a good person and an evil person. So Shinran could stop worrying. He learned that the Buddha's only desire is for all beings to be saved. It didn't matter if you were good or evil, what class you belonged to, what clan you belonged to, or you had come from, your family's background. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if you were a strong person or a weak person, smart or not smart, or whether you were a man or a woman. None of those things mattered. Obviously, they mattered very much in the secular aspect of society, and which had sort of bled into Buddhism, you might say, so that it had come to matter there. You better be this way or that way. The Buddha, in order to be enlightened, but this Pure Land teaching that Honen had awakened to insisted that the Buddha is completely non-discriminatory and accepts everyone just the way they are. So all that's required for liberation is the single-heartedness of reciting the Nembutsu, calling on Amida's name to be saved. So from that point on, Shinran ceased to worry about his fate in this world or in the next world. He completely entrusted himself to Amida Buddha. The name Amida itself means boundless life, which really refers to the interconnected oneness of life, interdependence, from which we all arise. We're all part of interdependence. We are interconnected with all things and all beings. Amida is the measureless wisdom and compassion that is at the heart of reality itself. Shinran understood that regardless of our karmic condition in life, every one of us, all beings, depends utterly on what he called other power. That's really also interdependence, the power of great compassion, which sustains all things at every moment. So from that time on, Shinran's whole life was devoted to sharing this Nembutsu teaching with others. Now, as Shinran grew in this teaching, he also deepened his understanding and understood it in quite a unique way, you might say. Not so to go beyond the idea that we are calling on Amida to save us, but rather that Amida is calling on us, that it's all from Amida's side, the side of great compassion, embracing and gathering all things together back to their true state, their original state. You find this idea of one's original state or original mind in other schools of Buddhism in different contexts, but it's kind of the same thing. We're trying not to get beyond ourselves, but back to who we truly are. That's what religion is really all about, to rediscover your true self. So anyway, Shinran's unique figure in the history of religion, even though he's rightly revered, I think, as the founder of this and a number of other schools of Jodo Shinshu, of Pure Land Buddhism in Japan, he himself never claimed to be a master or a founder, or he even denied being a teacher, you know. He had no disciples, no followers, according to him, to what he said, because he never ordained anyone, which is totally unique. He didn't say, I'm starting a new school. He really wasn't a founder. He didn't found anything. He was a seeker. He always claimed that I am just a student, a seeker, a disciple of the Buddha, a disciple of my teacher Honen, he said. And he never forced his teaching on anyone. He didn't say, you better listen to me or you're going to hell, right? He never did that to anyone. He said, whatever, it's up to you, Shinran always said. And he didn't even claim his teaching to be his teaching. He said, I'm just teaching what I learned. I learned from my teacher and on into the past. He insisted that he couldn't take any credit for this because the teaching, the truth that he was sharing was accessible to everyone, regardless of whether he taught it or not. It came directly from the Buddha. Everyone was saved, enlightened, awakened by the Buddha directly, not through any intermediary. He had great confidence that in the end, all beings are completely embraced by the Buddha's love and compassion and will ultimately become Buddha. He was a person of deep self-reflection and total honesty, never deluding himself about his own goodness. He had an open mind and courageously criticized the political and religious leaders of his time for their unjust actions and behavior, which ran contrary to the Buddha's teaching. Desiring the liberation of all beings, he urged his followers to aspire and pray for peace in the world. Truly, in following his own path, despite all difficulties, Shinran bequeathed a great treasure to the world, both through the example of his own life and through the teachings he was able to explain and share. As we celebrate Shinran's birthday today, let us not extol him as a person who was unusual or virtuous or so saintly as to have no relevance to people like us. Instead, let us follow the example of this very ordinary person who taught us to put aside the delusion of our own goodness and importance and discover the significance, the specialness of our life within the kindness, love, compassion, and wisdom that we ordinary beings always receive from all the life around us, from everyone around us. Whatever we choose to call it, let us embrace and be embraced by that true reality, Amida Buddha, who accepts us as we are without discrimination and brings us all unfailingly back to our true self and our true home. So, happy birthday, Shinran. Please join me in Gasho as we recite the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May I be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to me. May I live in peace and harmony. May my family be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May my teachers be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May my friends be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May strangers be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May my enemies be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Well, thank you so much for joining us today here at Kahului Hongwanji Buddhist Temple as we have observed the Gotan-e, or birthday celebration for Shinran Shonin, as well as our family gratitude observance. And hope you enjoyed today's service and that there's something that you can take away with you that is meaningful and helpful in your life. I have a couple of announcements I'd like to share with you. So for those of you here in Maui, we have our Hatsubon services, again, because we're not having the regular Bon dance nights and have the Hatsubon before that, and also because we still need to kind of minimize the number of people in the temple. We will be having Hatsubon, which is first year Obon service for our loved ones who have passed away since the previous year's Obon. We will have a service on 2 Saturdays, July 17th and July 24th, and at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. on both of those Saturdays. So if you are would like to have someone remembered, for those who have had funerals or some kind of funeral remembrance in the last year, since that time, you will be notified, or we'll try to notify you anyway. If you don't hear from us, please let us know. But we will have to ask people to give us a first and second choice so that we can make sure that we can divide up those 4 services equally. So just call the office, call Kahului Hongwanji office. The next item is that we will be having a fundraiser on June 19th. And the pickup will be between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. And so you can just call the office, or you can see the link in the information box below, underneath the video viewer on the YouTube page. We are grateful for all of your support for our fundraiser. I believe you can pay, if you use the link, you can pay either, send us a check, or you can use PayPal to pay us. So thank you very much. And then the next thing is that we will be having next month 2 in-person services, as well as our weekly YouTube service. So on June 20th, we'll have Father's Day, and also we will have graduate appreciation on that day, recognizing our graduates in the temple, who mostly the high school that are going off to college and so on. So, but all graduates are recognized. And then June 27th is our 4th Sunday, and we will be having again the Family Gratitude Remembrance. Next Sunday, May 30th, there will be no service, no video, and no in-person service. Whenever we have now a 5th Sunday, so we don't have a service on that 5th Sunday or a video. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and let's put our hands together in Gasho as we conclude our service. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida.